So I have with me Elliot March here today, who is the founding partner of March and White Design. Elliot, you have designed luxury single-family homes, enormous multifamily, super high-end properties, even tech campuses, and you've done so, starting in the UK, moving through the Middle East and Asia to New York, and now to LA. So tell me about your designs here in LA. Tell me what you love about this market. What's different about it?
Yeah, I think LA's got a real draw for us, obviously working internationally around the world. We always found that kind of LA had a hunger and need for luxury multifamily residential projects as well as single family homes. But I think with a real eye on sustainability as well, and that was kind of a real draw for us moving to LA to open a studio essentially.
Yeah, and I imagine that here you have folks who are interested in sustainability in many different ways and in maybe a more acute way than in a lot of other markets. Folks who are worried about every little thing, what's in their home, what material is this? Tell me a little bit about dealing with that and what people really want.
It's a whole process, and I think it's a good process that we're going through. I think the consumer here is very in touch with lifestyle products, very kind of conscious forward in terms of the way they think about their home and the things that they'll put in their home as well. And I think for us, it's a little bit, we don't have to educate as much that process or initiate that process as we maybe traditionally would in other areas.
Yeah.
And that allows us to have a full conversation with the client about what their needs are, what their expectations are, and how we as interior designers can better their home. And I think, really bring the DNA out of the project and bring that to the forefront of showcasing their home to their friends and family as well.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing too about how you sort of integrate sustainability and maintaining this level of luxury, this really high touch, both service and feel to the final home, to what you're delivering to your client. How challenging is it to bring sustainability and luxury together?
I think that sustainability and luxury and the homeowner in the current market are somewhat disjointed a little bit. It is a bit of a challenge because I think the way furniture is produced, for instance, in the business and in interior design, there's not so much emphasis on sort of conscious design or products that are less toxic or don't off gas, et cetera, et cetera. And I think on the material side as well, there's some great materials out there that are reclaimed or reconstituted, have got low VOC levels, or flooring. You often put a tile down, but like, what is the adhesive that's holding that floor together, right? So for us, it's kind of educating the client on the things that can be good things to put in their home and why. And then coming to the aesthetic as well, which is super important for our clients. So some of the materials and techniques pass the test and some don't live up to the test. So it's a consistent balance and challenge for us.
And I would imagine here that maintaining that luxury feel in LA, which is really, I certainly think of as the preeminent, single family home, luxury single family home market in the country, is how much are people willing to sacrifice in terms of, beauty, aesthetic for that feeling of sustainability?
Well, I think what we're sort of lucky here in Los Angeles and California, whereas the design or the design aesthetic is a little lighter, looser, a little bit more raw to an extent compared to somewhere like Dubai or even New York, where the aesthetic can be a lot more sort of glamorous and sort of high impact. So a lot of the materials that we sort of work with lend themselves to being to working with the kind of palette here that's lighter, brighter, a little bit more raw as well. So that helps us kind of push that across the line.
California itself is a unique market in terms of having restrictions that oftentimes developers especially think of as limiting, because they are here being forced to build in ways that are more sustainable, with less lower carbon footprints, things like that. Are you accommodating those restrictions? Do you see them as, a difficult guideline to work around?
That's a great question. California, I think, leads the United States in terms of statutory sustainability criteria. lighting or irrigation or some of these kind of key things that we often forget about. So for us, it was very much embracing those things, particularly on this new sort of tech headquarter campus that we just opened in Los Angeles. So I think it's really embracing that as a developer. You have to develop it, and then, you know, I think what is the next part of that? How do we go further on that as well, and sort of re-up, and I think develop construction techniques that might be more cost effective for the developer overall, but maybe offer more inherent sort of environmental or sustainable criteria to them, but look beautiful as well.
Right, and I was going to ask about that because, you know, here sometimes as a residential developer, you're developing a spec home in a way that you might not see in other markets. It has to be luxury. It has to be a wonderful experience, you know, for the end user, the person you're eventually going to sell it to. But it also needs to be sustainable, and it also still needs to pencil. So how closely are you working with the developers, whether it's a spec home developer or, you know, an office developer, a multifamily developer, anyone that you're working with, to sort of meet all of those challenges?
There's a lot of challenges to meet. But again, I think it's really about having the conversation early. There's certain things that we have to do here that are mandatory. So that's almost like part of the baseline checklist box that we've got to meet. And then it's really sort of exploring areas that you want to go over and above with to kind of exceed expectations. And I think certainly on the spec family home market here, I think you've got a lot more sort of, you've got very conscious buyers that I think that are maybe willing to buy into something that's more enhanced on the conscious or sustainability criteria. And hopefully, you know, we would like to think drives value or you know, can make a better product that sells well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to move backwards a little bit and talk about, you know, you started in the UK, you've developed in Dubai, throughout the Middle East, throughout Asia, and then coming to the US, you started in New York.
We did, yeah.
And then came here to LA. Tell me what you've pulled through in your design experience in all of these different markets that you've brought here to LA. How has that informed your process today?
We always start with the demographics first. So particularly, you know, working in New York, we're working on, you know, really large scale, multifamily branded luxury residential towers, and you're capturing a wide audience. So we're really thinking about how much value add or optionality we can give to buyers as well. And with a tower, you need an element of kind of consistency for volume, but you also want to offer differentiation because you might have 200, 300, 900 different buyers that are gonna buy the building there. So we're applying some of these techniques about offering differentiation within the theme of luxury to Los Angeles as well, being really clever with choices and materiality. And also, I think, really retaining a sense of luxury and community to the projects we're working on here, which has served us very well in New York.
Yeah. And, you know, coming from that space in New York where new luxury that's getting built is largely in that multifamily space, I'm interested to hear what you think about the development of luxury multifamily here in LA. It seems like there's a lot of potential. I'm wondering if you think LA has really embraced it yet.
Another great question. You know, LA, I think, which we all know, has been very kind of disparate. It's, you know, we live in a series of villages in Los Angeles. And I think with the multi-family developments, you're always up against single family homes as well. So there has to be a reason to live with other people. And I think what we're seeing certainly from New York and the rest of the country is bringing, you know, high touch, personalized amenities to these projects that can enhance your living experience. You can get all the amenities that maybe you wouldn't have even in your single family home. So I think that's a big draw. And also, I think what's going to be important as well is creating a sense of community in the multifamily space here. Thinking about, you know, building, positioning, you know, retail that's adjacent, and trying to create, you know, a sense of all these buyers coming together under one roof and why they should, and trying to create a luxury sphere around the project. And, it can be a challenge at times, but I think, LA is going to, latch onto this and grasp this as it is already sort of showing signs of doing so.
Yeah, it seems interesting to me, this contrast in developing luxury for multifamily, where you have to deliver relatively a box that's consistent but still feels really high touch, versus the work that you do on single family homes, where you can really customize down to the nth degree to make this feel exactly the way that the client wants it. How do those processes inform each other?
I think there's a level of crossover, but also big differentiation as well. On a single family home, we are thinking about different end users and who we're creating the design for.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we've got to settle on something, and we've got to see that through to a final product that we're going to furnish, and we're hoping that someone is going to be captured by that. That what is essentially we're selling. On the multifamily side, we've got more choice to ladder up to something that gives more optionality to the buyers as well, and also hold back the sort of developer holding back units as we're developing them to release those under different kind of configurations or parameters or add-ons that the clients want to bring in. So I think on the single family home side, using techniques from the multifamily to create homes or spec homes that have got high detailing, they're durable, well put together, have some sustainability sort of criteria built into them. But ultimately, we have to create a single product that is the vision of the design team and the developer, and ultimately, hopefully sort of sells to the client as well.
Right. Something that we had spoken about earlier as well was bringing modular construction and some of these sort of new building technologies into the market here in LA. Tell me a little bit about that.
I think, whether it's prefabrication or an element of modular construction, I really anticipate us seeing more of that, particularly in LA. And why am I saying that? I think, as we know, construction costs are very high. And, we're always fighting the issue of quality. We're always trying to drive quality and trying to create value, but control cost. And I think there's new construction ways and techniques through prefabrication that we might see more of in the single family home market coming to bear, where we can kind of control that quality and ultimately deploy a better product for our clients as well.
Yeah, super interesting. I'm really excited to see how that sort of plays out in this market in particular, where you have challenges like having to build to earthquake code and building on the side of a hill that's, for a number of construction workers who might have to work there for months on end, can be dangerous. So it seems like modular construction is a sort of wonderful solution to that.
I think so. As we saw with the earthquake today that happened a little bit earlier, it happens.
Yeah.
And I think the challenges with prefabrication or modularized construction is, how do we do that on hillsides? Traditionally we would, you'd be wanting to work on sort of a flat lot, which do exist. But again, I think, the two have to come together in terms of how do we create that sort of construction for hillside homes, which, we have a lot of here in LA.
Yeah. And I'm interested from your high-end perspective too, if you are building something, if a developer is building something that's made in parts off-site and then being assembled, how do you take something like that, to my mind, I'm imagining a cardboard box being put together. How do you make that feel beautiful, feel luxury?
I think there's a couple of ways. I think the way, or the supplier that you choose to work with, obviously being really key, and the detailing that could be expressed on the facade as well, the connections, the points, etc. That's really important. But also with that type of construction, you have endless possibilities in terms of finishing and choices as well, not only on the external facade, but on the interior as well, walls, floors, ceilings, etc., etc. And I think, how do we bring in sort of luxury as well to this product, through some of the craftsmen and artisan suppliers we work with on the luxury kitchens. And I think it's about marrying the two products and taking what is best out of how we do things traditionally and how we bring some of these new techniques together to form ultimately a better product.
Yeah, absolutely. Your team is making a big bet on LA. tell me why. What's so attractive about this market to you?
Mhm. So we are making a big bet on LA, and I think one that's ultimately paying off. I think we can see the demand for luxury multifamily and more density coming to LA, especially with big events like the Olympics coming up as well. And I really feel that buyers and clients are accepting again living in a condominium style product, as well as sort of offsetting that against a single family home, which we equally love working on as well. So I think LA's got a lot of potential for that. And, let's see how we get on with kind of zoning and planning laws and density in the future. But we're excited about how some of these individual cities are embracing that. And I think we're only going to see that growing. And, I think where we can add a lot of value is bringing that luxury element from these other cities like New York and London to cities like LA, where I think the market's only going to be growing, and the sophistication of the buyer is also going to be growing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like, there are a lot of unique challenges to the LA market, both on the planning and zoning side, but there are questions for developers about financing, getting projects, out of the ground here, to sustainability challenges, as we've talked about, to, the unique geological elements of LA, like earthquakes and wildfires and all of that. But I'm interested, to hear what you think you've learned from working in this unique and uniquely challenging market.
I think we've learned nothing is ever what it seems. There's a lot of things and hurdles and red tape that we have to go through. We've learned how to work within the system, and I think we've learned that people do want sustainable design at a very high-end luxury level of deployment. So much so that we just designed our own furniture collection that is 100% sustainable and hits the biggest criteria we could find in terms of that. So it's really helping drawing practices like us to the forefront of conversations we maybe traditionally didn't have.
And I'm interested to hear too, with all of these lessons learned in LA, if there's one thing that you could sort of take from the way that this LA market works or the way that you work in it, if you can take one thing and export it to whether it's your practices in other cities or into the sort of design standards, across this country, what would you take from LA and push out?
So again, I think it's sustainability, and I think the genesis of that was our sustainable furniture collection. We could have produced it anywhere in the world. We could have produced it in China, but we chose to produce it in LA, in one of the higher sort of cost point centers for producing it. But we really felt that clients and consumers wanted to buy into California and LA as a place of innovation and sustainable growth as well. So that was pretty key for us.
Yeah. Elliot Murch, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.